What up, yo?
Hello.
It is. Hey, I haven't been introduced to you yet. You're not allowed to talk.
Sorry.
It is episode 287 of the Should I Play This Game podcast for this, the 25th of September 2023. Graham Banks, now you may speak.
Thank you. How are you?
I am feeling better than I have.
We wouldn't necessarily be
Fucking hell.
We wouldn't
It's
necessarily
fucking hell front, man.
little low bar you're setting there, but I can see.
It's a real low bar this year, isn't it? Fuck. So, the last podcast we did, let's just, again, let's get Steve's health bullshit out the way. The last podcast we did, I coughed a bit.
Yep.
And then we did a video for Shadow Gambit.
Yes, that would be right. Yep.
And I coughed during that.
Yep.
And then, over the course of that night, the coughing got worse and worse till I got a fucking splitting headache as well. I ended up having that entire week off work. Went to the doctor and tried going back to work on the Monday of week just gone, which was happened to be the last week of term.
Mm.
And towards the end of the week I was off, I'd be blowing my nose and didn't matter the pressure, my ears would pop and I would be spinning. And then, of course, as part of that, there'd be trapped mucus or trapped snot or whatever up there, so you'd have to put extra effort just to get all of it out.
Yeah.
So I was spinning sometimes two or three times a day, trying to clear this shit out. So I ended up having all of last week off. The last week, except for the Monday. I went into work on the Monday. I'm like, fuck this. And it started coming good. And then I went and shot basketball for about half an hour on Saturday, which felt all right. Finally had a surgical follow-up from my fucking appendix shit. The surgeon was like, has anyone followed up with you and told you what we found and all this sort of stuff? I'm like, nope. And he's like, I'm like, rad. So without getting into too much of that, there was some stuff. It's pretty much cleared. I've got another CT scan in fucking 2 weeks. And then I got the surgeon appointment on the second week of term to do the review of that CT scan.
Okay.
But I got through shooting for half an hour and I didn't really feel much in the way of pain in that location. Probably just more muscular along here because I barely moved my arms above here except to go, yay! And do dumb shit. My arms here, here and here, are a bit stiff and a bit sore because they always are when I shoot for the first time in ages. Fucking getting frail, man. I got the reason I'm trying to get basketball shit in, I've got the teachers' games coming up this coming Thursday. Hopefully, 3-peat. But this is the most underdone I've gone into any basketball-related thing ever. I haven't been able to practice or work out or quote-unquote train for a term and a half, essentially. I'm going to be so fucking fucked. I'm going to be calling for subs after 30 seconds. Run up the court. Oh, I'm done. Fuck. Pull me out. Oh, god damn it. How's tricks with you?
I'm really good. Just to rub it in.
We should make that the thumbnail. Me flipping you off. So we've got games to talk about. We've got one news item to talk about, which is the Unity stuff. There's been a couple of other events that have happened. For the most part, they're not the sort of thing we're really looking into anymore. I'm kind of hoping that the leaked Xbox controller comes to fruition, though. That thing sounds cool. But anyway. And Nintendo's doing a lot of remakes late in the Switch's life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only reason I wanted to talk about that Nintendo Direct. They're doing 6 at least. I counted between 6 and 9 fucking remakes that are coming out on the Switch in the next 12 months.
And that's why I didn't want to talk about it.
Damn it.
They just have nothing new there.
It's fucking hilarious. Oh, god damn it. And that Contra remake kind of looks shit, so I want to play it. But anyway. The other thing I really quickly wanted to ask you about, Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
expansion is out and is getting very positive reviews.
Mm-hmm.
The 2.0 update is out, and people are very happy with that. Although I have seen a couple of things where it's like, yo, enemies scale to your level now, which I kind of don't like that so much in RPGs and open world games.
Mm.
But there's also the other side of it where it makes every combat encounter actually meaningful.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's got pros and cons for sure.
Did you get in? I never played Cyberpunk at launch because of how busted and fucked up it was.
Neither did I. So
You didn't either.
no,
Is there any temptation or desire to get into it?
no,
No.
not with stuff coming out. No, if
That's-
what we had coming out for the next couple of months wasn't coming out, then yeah. Maybe. But with Assassin's Creed Mirage coming out, and
I was going to say, like, bringing up October's list,
yeah,
like, we're going to go through that as well in the beginning and the end. Holy fuck.
Yeah, so like, there's some big games in there. So to go back to a game that's 2 years old now, seriously, 3 years old by then.
It's been in early access for 3 years.
Yeah, yeah, it just isn't what I want to do. Like that's not the way that I. No, that's not.
I'm curious. I'm curious to like try it because
I mean,
like open world first person
it sounds like
shooters and stuff,
it's in its best position to play is right now. Like it's obviously its best.
Wouldn't be hard given the fucking shit show it was for at least the first year.
But like it's probably the best situation to play it in. But no, not with everything else coming out.
Yeah,
no, it's not on my radar.
Because that would be at least a good 50, 100 hours too.
Not saying it's not saying never play it, but not planning to this year. You could say.
I definitely would like to check it out, but like you said, fucking goddamn it, there's so much coming, and there's already like the backlog of stuff I haven't played yet. And even one of the things I have played, I'm putting off now for patch. No, well, there's one thing I was going to start. I'm waiting for a patch for. That's coming in October. And there's also something else that we... fucking... All right. We're talking about games.
Yep.
How about we transition into what Graham has played?
Yes. So, still
Do we
playing
really need to put this up? Because it's like, dude, Graham's playing Shadow again.
No, that's how we do these things.
I know. How many more hours?
Not as much. Only a couple of hours this week. It's been had a lot of stuff on this week, so not as much as I would plan to.
Graham, the social butterfly.
Just shit going on, basically. So yeah, so I'm still playing Shadow Game, but really liking it. So moving on. Broken Roads. I mean, it's going to basically be probably my game of the year, so there's not much point really going to.
I was going to say, is there much more you want to say about it, or is it more just like any like cool things that have happened or anything, or is it just like, yo, this thing's still fucking dope?
Basically that. Like, it's still really, really good. I like a lot of things about it. The story, the voice acting, the gameplay is all just like as you sort of said during our checkout video and also in the last podcast. This is the best one of these games they've made, and they're going out on a fucking high. So more power, we're not good on them, sort of thing. So yeah, so I'm not gonna. I'll keep playing it. I'm probably gonna be as sort of brief as we are this episode on it each time. But when it comes to Game of the Year stuff, when we get to that early next year,
buckle in for Graham to like speak game for half an hour.
Basically, yeah, that'll be the plan. Unless something
we
comes
still need to figure out how we're going to do Game of the Year if we try and do a format like last year. If we're going back to like the
get back to a more traditional one. I've set up everything to do the traditional one, so that's why I've done it. So yeah,
good thing I've been keeping notes like that in my phone then.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, so as I said, I'll keep playing Shadow Gambit until I finished it. I think I'm probably about a third of the way through it in terms of the completion, whatever that completion means to them, whether it's sorry, story and all side stuff, I don't know, but yeah, I still feel with that game I've got an awful lot to play, so I'll keep playing it for that reason. And I've also got another trip coming up to PAX, not next week, but the week after, so I'll be travelling again, so I'll be able to play it more than I can currently, because I've got, as I said, other shit on my plate.
Maybe you can play some Dredge too. That off.
Maybe we can finish that off.
What a great game that was.
Yeah. Broken Roads is a game that is an Australian-made CRPG and set in Australia. It's got Victorian, like Screen Victoria, and I think even Screen Queensland funding behind it, as well as the actual studio itself.
I
Which is
fucking love the name of the
yeah, it's a
developer.
great which up
That's
there.
fantastic.
Drop Bear Bites is just a great name, and it just plays on one of Australia's great sort of tropes that we have.
It's no myth, it's no joke, man. Fucking drop bears will fuck your shit up.
Oh,
There's the title as well. Drop bears will fuck your shit up.
um, so this is a demo that's out on Steam. I think you can still get it. I believe you
I
can.
downloaded it. When did I download it? Either after we last did the podcast or within the last week.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's still available, though it's as we were discussing before we recorded, Steam has got some issues at the moment, and it's not really working. But yeah, pretty sure you can still get it. It's not particularly long. It's basically probably an hour and two out of it before it'll sort of finish. And it basically sets up the setting of the game itself. Doesn't do a lot of real explanation of what the gameplay is going to be, other than some of the movement stuff. Combat is not really covered in the demo at all, which I think's a bit of a mistake on their part, maybe.
I was going to say, do you think this is an effective demo for basically going, yo, this is what this game is? Or are they just not relying on, it's probably not the best term, but sort of relying on, yo, we're doing this. This is the sort of foundation we're building on. Fallout, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind, Planescape, things like that. Those old school CRPGs. Are they sort of maybe not necessarily coasting on that foundation or the reporting of that foundation based on this demo?
I don't coasting. I wouldn't use coasting at all.
Coasting has very negative connotations, yeah. Obviously.
But the big selling point of this game is this morality system, for the want of a better term. I don't know. They give it a particular name, but at the very beginning of the game, the demo, you get asked a questionnaire, and it asks you very sort of scenario-based questions, sort of like the trolley program stuff that we did, a few months back. Those kind of questions, because they're trying to get an idea of essentially what your personality is, because they then break your characters down to these four traits, I guess.
Sort of personality archetypes, or more trait-based?
More trait-based, because I think what it then leads into is based on what you've chosen. You'll then get dialogue options that are in that kind of trait. So you've got things like a trait that is basically you're focused on just you. I think they literally call it nihilism, is one of the traits. So if you answer all the questions in such a way that you're just focusing on you and you're only you.
Is that what nihilism actually means? I thought nihilism was basically just a real negative, bleaker view of the world.
I think it's this, and I think they describe it as nihilism.
The rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless.
I think the way they do it is they say that it's you're only focused on
self-centered, sort of egotistical, weird.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose there is an egocentric, I guess, conceptual ideology behind nihilism, and that I'm the only one that matters. Fuck all is.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of where they're coming from.
Okay.
So you've got that. You've then got where you are basically concentrating on the group as a whole. I'm just trying to bring up. So I think it's probably better because, as I said, moral compass is what they call it. That's what they call this system. And it seems to be I think they're that's the main thing this game's got, going for us. Probably not a right term, but yeah. So you've got humanist is one of them. Nihilist, as I said. Machiavellian is the third one, and
Tupac's in this game.
and oh god, utilitarianism. God, that's a hard word to say.
Utilitarianism.
Yeah, that word. And basically, yeah, as I said, that once you've done this sort of questionnaire, you then get this You have to visually see it, and we may end up. We'll do a video of this when it comes out.
Mm.
The reason why I didn't want to do one of the demos was it was just didn't cover all the
It's
aspects of
just
the
a lot
game.
of talking, a lot of
A lot,
reading,
lot
not
of
much. Yeah.
yeah. So I think once we'll get into, rather than starting from the beginning of that game, we'll get into it a bit and do some sort of video at the time. But yeah, so it's got this sort of 4-part sort of trait aspect, and based on how you react and react and answer your questions you answer, it'll put you into one of these it'll sort of have a wedge shaped thing that covers multiple of these. Like you might have one, like you might be, um, for the good of the group and that sort of thing. That means you cover humanist and utilitarian sort of thing. You might cover two or three of these.
Utilitarianism or whatever.
Yeah, you might cover two or three, or at least two of these sort of traits, and it sort of then gives you, like every time you answer a question, you can see this sort of shape shifting slightly as you make your different choices. And I think it's just an interesting system. Whether it really makes a big difference, ultimately, obviously too hard to tell until we get into it, obviously. But it does then link into the gameplay, what the storyline you can take, because options aren't going to be available to you if you're not that kind of a person, sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's got a lot of the other usual trappings you have, like you set up your character and you put you put stat points into
Stats and shit.
stats and sets, and based on you can also choose at the beginning of it you choose your origin. There's only one available in the demo, but that origin gives you buffs to some of the starting stats as well.
Yep.
Sort of thing. So it's interesting. It's an interesting setup. It's pretty much all voice acted, even in the demo. Not everything was, but last chunk of it was. And the dialogue is, based on it being an Australian-based game and developer, it is heavily Australian.
Fucking Australian, bruv.
Basically, it's that, and there's a narrator
So
that.
it's a post-2Pacalypse Straya.
And I'm not even gonna. I can't answer. I can't respond to that. Come on.
One question I'll ask you though, the questionnaire, the sort of survey thing that you did, do you do it on your own personal values, beliefs, ideologies, whatever, or did you try and manipulate the answers to get you the sort of a role or an outcome that you were looking for?
I don't think you could necessarily do it to get a role or outcome you're looking for, because it's just answering questions, and it's going to make that like it does this sort of without showing a picture of it, it's hard to really show you, but there's
That's fine. I'll look at the demo at some point.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the demo, you'll excuse me, you'll see you sort of get a sort of an overline of where your personality sits across those sort of 4 aspects. And I don't know if you can necessarily, like, if you want to have a particular type of personality, you just answer the questions, because when the questions come up, I think they're even categorized based on those 4 traits I was talking about. So I think if you want a particular character type to start with, you can go, I want to answer all these ones, or Machiavellian all the way through. Then your sort of personality trait will be very focused over the Machiavellian.
Yeah.
May have some, edge cases either side of that, but
can you go back?
No, once you set up the character. No, once you set up.
No, I mean, like once you answer one question and you see the results of it, can you go back and go?
You don't see the result until the end of it, until it sort of. So I think there's 5 or 6 questions asked, and basically at the end of it sort of says. You don't really even see. Yeah, basically, I don't even think you really even see it till you get into the game and actually see this sort of overlay I'm talking about.
You come across the first dude in the outback in the post-2Pacalypse Australian outback, and he's like, "You're a bit of a dick, aren't you?"
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's essentially that. You can then sort of answer in a certain way, but yeah, so it's basically, excuse me, yeah, like it's a sort of top-down, it's isometric style view of the world. It's, I think, a really good-looking game. It's, as I said, pretty much all voice acted. And I think it's got a lot of promise. I first played this at a PAX pre-COVID. That's how long this game's been in development for. Might have even been the 2019
for a while.
I think it might have even been the 2019 PAX that I maybe first saw it. So I'd like to think it'll be at this year's PAX. Maybe the demo that's a bit different to what we've got
Being
now.
so close to release, it might even be possible because I think the PAX Australia schedule's out. I
The
wouldn't be surprised if they were doing a panel.
I don't think they are. Not that I spotted.
Oh,
But I have
okay.
seen. I haven't looked at it closely, but they might be doing one. But yeah, like it's a
Have you
traditional
mapped out what your panels are going to be and shit at PAX
I
yet?
the
Or are you just playing that shit by ear?
panels aren't that good from what I read through.
Oh,
Bit
okay.
down, bit of a thing. Yeah, so it's yeah, authentic Australian locations, really good, really good dialogue. That's sort of very, very Australian dialogue, which is great. Um, the artwork, as I said, is like it's hand drawn, like it's really nice. Um, so and only just for most of this year up until recently, it was basically a coming soon. And then I think
Mm.
they did a presentation at Gamescom where I think they actually put, or maybe even take a game show. No, Gamescom.
I think it was. No, it wasn't TGS. I
It
think they just put a trailer out that just had the date on it.
No, they went to
Can't
Gamescom.
remember if it was Gamescom related.
They went to Gamescom.
Was it?
They went to
Oh,
Gamescom and did. They went there. I don't know whether those. Yeah, they went to Gamescom and I don't know if they did a showcase, but they had their
show.
they
Yeah.
had a thing there, and they actually announced the date at Gamescom, which is pretty cool. So it's out November 23rd. Sorry, November 14th, and it's out on pretty much kind of everything, which is interesting itself. So it's out on Switch, PC, PlayStation, and
Really?
Xbox. Yeah, it's out on them.
Because the image here says it's only the Xbox consoles and PC.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the on their website it says
Or is that
PlayStation.
maybe something the IGDB hasn't yet updated?
Hasn't updated yet. Yeah, but on their website it says PC. Oh, it says in development for PC, Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox, and is scheduled for release on the 14th. So maybe they're not scheduled yet for release those other
The PlayStation and Switch versions are still going to be in develop for some
in,
time.
in
Like my understanding is trying to develop for that broader spectrum would be incredibly difficult, and that's one of the things that Phil Spencer said about Starfield is like this thing not coming out on PlayStation made development infinitely easier
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously,
because
the more platforms you have, the more things you got to have. No doubt, that makes perfect
the more
sense.
things you got to do.
You got to work around. So, but yeah, I am looking forward to it. I mean, as I said, I saw it 3 or 4 years ago now, and it caught my eye back then. It hasn't really changed much from they've had that morality compass in it pretty much ever since it started. That I think that was their sort of their main thing focus of the game. But yeah, the only thing that's a bit unknown at the moment is what the combat is going to be like. It does appear to
I
be.
was literally just going to ask, do you think combat relies on sort of behind the scenes dice rolls, or is it real
I
time,
don't
or
really
how's it
know.
work?
I suspect it's
Okay.
going to be. Yeah, I'm only completely guessing, but I suspect it's going to be. I suspect turn based and probably completely RNG stuff. I'm not. I just don't know. Like they're very like the only
Mm.
time they ever did it in the demo is you have a section where you're basically going up against some like a dummy, like a target dummy.
Like a training dummy.
Yeah, sort of thing. And there's one of you in this little section, and there's three of the target dummies, and it's turn based, so they go through their 3 steps. Not they can do
Mm.
anything because they're target dummies. So it goes, briefly stops, briefly stops, briefly stops, then onto you. You do your bit, action points, a couple of shots, then the dummies go through their moves, which they can't do obviously, then back to you, sort of thing. So it's going to be turn based, definitely, and obviously, turn based.
Maybe XCOM perhaps, or something like
Maybe,
that, because
yeah,
I don't
maybe.
think they've announced any D&D sort of element, have they? Like
Not really.
D&D system
They've
or...
just literally said, role playing. They haven't really. They don't really talk about.
That's a very broad term
Yeah,
these days too.
that's what I mean. Like they literally say turn-based
Yeah.
tactical combat. So,
So it might be like Jagged Alliance 3 or XCOM or something like
yeah,
that too.
yeah, it could. Yeah, like I said,
Interesting.
the demo didn't have anything beyond this target dummy stuff. That I got into. Maybe if you played a different way, maybe you come across something, but I didn't. And a lot of the
I wonder if...
discussions on the on the Steam's discussions for this game was what's the combat like, because there's nothing in the demo about it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a big unknown at the moment is what the combat is like. But yeah, definitely something I'm gonna definitely get. It's on my wish list, has been for quite some time now. So I'm glad it's this year, and November's not that far away. So
I mean, with everything coming, are you sure you're glad it's this year?
I mean, I'm glad that's coming out this year because it'll be
Yes.
essentially 4 years since I first saw it to now, so I'm glad it's out. Yeah, based on
It's
just
interesting the old sort of CRPG coming back. There's this, there's that Warhammer, I think it's called Age of Sigma.
mm,
Um, I think Disco, like, because you haven't played Disco Elysium, have you?
I played it very briefly when it first came out, but I haven't got back to it. So,
Yeah.
but I
I
think
think
like that's not.
that hitting the way it did.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things where it's not that this game came out because that game was good, because that this
No.
game's taking 4 years to make. It's just that
Yeah.
at a certain point, people say, "Oh, we're going to make a game of this," and then they take that long to make. So you got Baldur's
It
Gate
happened,
3,
yeah.
Jagged Alliance 3, this game. In that gap between those probably games starting development now, Elysium came out in the middle of
It
it.
just so happens,
Just
yeah.
happens that that's it. I don't think they've necessarily all gone away. I think what's happened is that Western developers have started to make them, which I think is probably the bigger thing, rather than you're relying on the JRPG from sort of being the only version of those sort of really reductive statement there. You know what I mean? You've actually got
Yeah.
some pretty big, not some biggish releases coming out. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one in November. As again, it might be play this game for a couple of hours. And go, oh shit, this is too big. I'll go back. I'll come back to this. Yeah, and just also it'll depend also how it also lands in terms of
Review wise and things
review.
like
Well,
that.
not review. I'll probably just get it regardless of reviews. It'll be how the game comes out. Does it come out? Busted, that kind of stuff. Usual
Yep.
usual stuff for PC games, which is a sad reality currently.
Yeah, a bit of a minefield.
My last game is a little demo of a game you can in fact buy, assuming Steam's going to play ball. Nope, it's just sitting there doing
Is
its
it
thing.
still fucked, is it?
Yeah, still basically sitting there doing nothing.
Uh,
I'll see if I can search for this.
oh, no, it's working.
Yeah, this game is High Rise City. This is
That came out very recently.
it's only been out for about a month or so, if not less. No, less than about
Is
earlier this month.
because the date up there says March 24th. So was that an early access
I believe
build
so. Yeah, but I
or
believe it was early access. Yeah, this game's been out for.
because the Internet Games Database seems to take the early access launch as its release date, whereas Steam will go the 1.0, the early access date until 1.0.
Yeah, then it comes out. Yeah.
Is this
Yeah.
a Graham game?
I thought it was, but yeah, I think even now even though it's been in early access for quite some time, it's not quite there for me.
Okay.
This is basically a city skylines crossed with Anno, and what I mean by that is it's not your traditional city build where you just plonk down residential and commercial zones and that kind of stuff, and the thing just starts to grow. This has got that concept, but you're also doing the Anno style stuff where you've got to meet the individual residents' needs. That's what makes your money go up. That kind of stuff. You then got to produce their production lines to give them their food that they want to make them sort of bring the revenue in. So it's got some interesting. Like, I like the idea behind it, but when you look at the game, the UI I think is all over the place instead of actually doing this stuff, and it's really hard to understand and follow what you're trying to do. And also there's things like the same thing with Anno. You've got your warehouses to store stuff, and you're actually also putting down transport companies that actually are hauling stuff around the city. So if you don't put them down, nothing freaking moves, basically. So you really are sort of almost more a micromanaging style setup. Whereas Anno, you'd say, I need to make X, Y object or item. Therefore, I need to put down this building to make the first
refinery
thing,
and a
refinery, and then a farmery, and then that leads to this, and then you're done with it. The game just takes care of getting stuff around from the output in that production to warehouses or whatever they might be. Whereas this game actually relies on you building and putting down transport companies to move that stuff around. And on the
Seems
surface,
like it's trying to adapt some of those Anno systems, but on a much larger city builder scale, which
Yeah, as I said,
I don't like ideologically or sort of whatever. I don't think that'll work.
it does work.
Or maybe it's overwhelming, or it just
Yeah,
becomes one too many elements.
I think it is a maybe one too many. Um, the demo only goes for like a couple of hours, like even an hour, I think, before it actually literally stops playing. You can't play it anymore. Um,
Oh.
which is a bit of a problem because I think it should go a bit longer. Because I got to the point where I was needing bricks, I think, to build the next layer of. Because once you upgrade your town to whatever it was, I got it to Hamlet or whatever it was, as you would expect with that kind of game like Anno does, your residents' needs, go up with it. And one of them was I needed you build a fire station and a police station to tick off that need or that that requirement. And the buildings needed bricks. So I thought, okay, how do I build bricks? So you can go through the menu option to go, okay, I need a clay pit, I need a brickwork. Okay, that makes logical sense. Where the hell do I build them? Oh, okay, there's a big obvious bit on the map that tells you where to build them. Easy enough. And then I build a haulage company. I think that's a haulage company is what the term they use. Right next to it to go from to do that to the brickworks to then store everything. And it took what seemingly a long time for the game to kick in and transport the stuff from the clay pit to the brickworks. And eventually, I saw a truck pick up the item and take it to a storage place that was way on the other side of the city. Then fucking turn around and literally drive back again. So I don't know whether as I said, the demo is slightly buggy or I didn't do something right. But like the concept is interesting that they've taken the standard city, being like you're laying down the roads and that sort of stuff. But when you want to lay down residential, you've got to have you don't just draw a square around. Okay, this road area is all residential. You've got to have the materials to build that zone. If you don't have it, you can't build residential areas. So it takes us to that level as well. So it's a little bit more micromanagey than Anno is, and way more micromanaging than City Skylines is, which are the two things it's kind of pulling from. And it's it's trying to find a place in the middle, and I don't think it quite gets it. It's also currently $44 on Steam in Australia,
I saw
and
that when I looked it up. I'm like,
that's
ooh.
that's not worth that much money based on the demo. I'll just say it that way.
Mm.
It might be worth picking up on a sale, which I'm sure at some point we'll get a winter/summer sale or something in between now and then that Steam will do another sale. And it might be worth picking up at that point at maybe I'd say $30, maybe 25 would be the most I'd pay for that. But it does have an interesting concept, but it's not quite there in terms of the UI, as I said, is quite busy as well, and not particularly clear as to how you do something. So, but something I'll probably keep an eye on. And as I said, if it comes down in price, it's probably something I'll then pick up. But at the moment, I'm not sure it's quite there. They do seem they're still patching it quite frequently, so I think they are realizing. I think it's also made by one guy. I think.
Fuck, really?
I think it's one person. Is what I think I've read. I think that's the case. Let me just double check that. But I thought it was made by one. It's made by a German. Pretty sure he's one guy.
Small team from Germany. It doesn't. I think.
Okay, small
if you
team.
will follow the Twitter or the X, it might tell you how many. But
yeah, okay. Maybe I think of something else that's a one-person team that I was playing earlier. But yeah, like you look at
to answer your question, the next Steam sale that is likely for this to go on probably won't be until the autumn sale, November 21st to 28th.
Okay, yep.
There's shoot 'em ups this coming week. The next fest in mid-October, and then their Halloween dealy.
Oh, okay.
Then autumn sale and winter sale.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe the autumn sale they might do something in there.
I wouldn't think you get much off on a game with this sort of date. Maybe like 20.
Yeah, as I said, it might be 20%.
30% maybe.
20%. That might be enough to to
Mm.
tick it over. But yeah, so I mean, I'm interested in it, in how they've set it up. But yeah, it doesn't quite stick to landing just yet. But I don't think it's kind of not necessarily far away. As I said, the interesting they've taken as I said, they've taken two different ways of playing the same kind of thing. Like
I was going to say, two very polar opposite
like you got City
ends of the city building spectrum.
Yeah, so City Skyline, you just basically build your roads, you build your residential zones, and you basically let it catch up. Whereas this, you've got to do Yano stuff where you've got to build the infrastructure to make goods that make the citizens happy, and then make them want to stay and come to your city. So it's an interesting sort of way. I mean, I do like both those two types of games. I like Anno, I like City Skylines. So you would think it would work, but it doesn't quite get there. It's also possible. I think it might. The implementation might be where it's falling over, not necessarily the concept of it.
I was literally just about to say the implementation of trying to take those two very different ends of the spectrum, trying to combine them into one cohesive concept of a game, might be where maybe the concept falls down, perhaps.
Yeah. But that is all I have played.
All right. So volume-wise, way less for me than last time. Despite having like 2 weeks off.
I was going to say, why? How's that happen?
How's that happened is the first two games on this list. Jagged Alliance 3. Let's go. Let's talk about it. So there's two components of my discussion of Jagged Alliance 3. The first one is we were talking about doing a video of this.
I'm still keen. I'm still keen doing one.
Absolutely, I am too. The frustrating or annoying part is that the developers put a patch roadmap up on Steam, showing what they're going to be working on and adding. The next patch they're doing does a lot of like combat balancing and stuff like that, and then they're adding because they've got the browser interface on the map where you go in and you do your contracts for your mercs, things like that. They're adding basically a fake web-based store where you can buy guns, ammo, and shit like that.
Okay, yep.
Which is super useful because my dude's using I've got a couple of mercs using really good shotguns, but no shotgun ammo.
Okay, yep.
So because all the ammo you find, it's either you find the gun, unload the ammo, so then you've got it, or you just find the ammo in the environment, or you get lucky in a shop in a main sort of hub city has some ammo to buy.
Yeah, okay.
But I haven't come across much shotgun ammo. So I'm holding off for now to play anymore. And it's not a statement of quality on this thing. Because I have... Let me quickly...
So that roadmap has a 1.2 update, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. And you're referencing the Bobby Ray store, which is coming in 1.3.
Yes.
Before that is obviously 1.2, which is a quality combat improvements, which has got inaccurate shots may hit other body parts, knives and other items become salvageable, toggle button for faster enemy and ally turns, ricochet bullets.
That would be so good as well.
Ricochet bullets able to hit and cause collateral damage, and various improvements to melee animations. And then 1.3 after that is Bobby Ray's Guns and Things. It's just an in-game online store to buy, as Steve said, weapons and ammo from that store. And they haven't got an actual time frame for this stuff, or do
That's
they?
the annoying part, is that they haven't put any time frame on these things yet. I would wager they're coming in the next couple of months.
Yeah, so it's probably going to take a while.
The satellite view improvements and the quest on map modding tools, I don't really care about.
Yeah, they say
because to me the satellite map works as it's needed, all that sort of stuff. It's literally the combat stuff that's really interesting that they're going to do, and that satellite store where you can buy ammo and shit like that. I literally have, well, not literally, but I have 31.6 hours in this thing.
That's actually less than I thought, actually. I actually thought it was going to be in the 50s and 60s.
I haven't played it since the 17th. I haven't played it for just over a week.
Oh, okay, so it's okay.
I did have... So, the other conceit, or the other part that I wanted to mention is that there's a narrative event that happens that changes the nature of the. I'm saying this without wanting to give much away in the nature of what this narrative event is. It changes the nature of the conflict, but it also basically, in a lot of respects, wiped a lot of the territorial progress I'd made in taking over different areas and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'd essentially taken over at least 2 full landscapes on the map, like taking the mines, taking the bases. There was a hospital I took control of, all that sort of stuff. And then this event happened, and I lost control of all of it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So it added like 5-10 hours worth of combat to get that stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those combat scenarios were not easy. Like I'm safe scumming like a motherfucker in this game, or basically reloading the starts of turns when things don't play out.
Yep.
Because I don't want to have a 20-30 hour attempt at a campaign just completely wash. That to me is not entertaining.
Yeah.
That shits me. But the individual combat encounters and fights have a really great tensity to them, and they're completely manageable once, because you've had the weapons and you've built your mercs up over time and stuff like that. It's just the added nature of those fights added so much more. Like I said, 5-10 hours to get back to that place of equilibrium that I was at before that turn happened. So
what's the structure of the game? Like, obviously you've got the turn-based combat when you get into combat. What are you doing between times? You're like walking around.
So you've got a satellite map.
Mutant Year Zero style doing stuff, or what's the?
You can do.
Okay.
You get a satellite map where you're basically going. You can choose each individual square on the map. You can choose to go down to tactical view and do the exploration of the actual landmass, if there's anything there, or you can just do it from over the top. And like sometimes, the enemies will send diamond shipments out, and if you have a squad set up where that diamond shipment's path goes, they'll run into it, and you can either do the battle yourself or auto resolve it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Where it'll weigh the statistics, and then basically like it predicts what will happen, like decisive win, victory, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And like, I'm auto resolving anything that comes up with a decisive win.
So, okay, because so you get a pre-prediction of what it's going to be, then you can say take that, or just take over yourself, and hopefully you've got.
Yep.
Okay, so you can sort of
but like I'm really enjoying it. But like I said, the changes that they're proposing in these patches for me are going to make enough of a difference that I'm like, okay, I want to hold off now until these changes are implemented.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where it's like, part of the reason why I tend not to play as many games when they launch is stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's like really frustrating. It's like, man, I want to play this. Oh wait, 6 months ahead of the line, they fucking added a bunch of shit that changed it quite cohesively or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm enjoying that.
There is a demo available on their store page on Steam,
there is indeed,
which is kind of a little bit
very good though so far.
The icon for the button for that is kind of not where you normally see it. So, anyway.
Oh.
Right, next on your one. Dave the Diver.
Oh, mate, Dave. Where am I at? After 47.7 hours, I have finished Dave the Diver and got all of the achievements.
Hey.
I had to use a guide to get a couple of them to figure out how they worked and things like that. But god damn it, this game is fucking amazing. There's some really cool little hidden, or not even hidden, just like cool event-based things that happen on the procedurally generated elements. And just the progression through it, like the different environments you end up in and how that all plays out. There's like things you can do for the restaurant simulation to basically just make sure. Well, I had a dish that I was getting over 1,000 gold every time it got bought. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. But yeah, there's not a great deal I can really say about it. that hasn't been said in reviews and stuff like that. It's literally something that people really need to experience, I think.
Mm.
There is a scope of content. Like, excuse me. I was getting new mechanics and new like elements in the game like 35 hours in.
Mm.
So like they very like there's elements that they gradually sort of lay on you, but there's also parts where it's like, okay, this needs doing now.
Yeah.
So they do a good job of balancing that out, and it's like, yeah, it's super chill. If you wanted to, it's a game you could play infinitely.
Mm. Yeah.
Just to keep managing the restaurant and doing the things that entails.
Yep.
Like there's a couple things I haven't done that don't have achievements tied to them, so I'm like, eh.
Mm.
But yeah, I really dig this thing. This is a I think going to be bare minimum top 10 game for me this year.
Mm. Yep.
But yeah. I forgot to mention, I bought Avengers for like $5.
No, okay.
because they're pulling it, they just mad discounted it, so I grabbed it and was like, fuck it. Girl, Viewfinder.
Mm-hmm.
What a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like,
we've established that before.
And but the best part is like I'm not finding. I haven't like there have been puzzles where I'm like, what the fuck do I do? But I figured it out.
Mm.
I haven't needed to look up any walkthroughs or any guides or anything for how to actually do the puzzles for the progression.
Mm.
The only stuff I've looked up for guide-wise is just achievements that are in, like the hidden achievements are all weird sort of functions that sometimes will randomly play out and you'll figure them out yourself.
Mm.
Or if you don't. Like there's one where if you take a picture of a battery, put it above your head and the battery drops on your head, that's an achievement.
Okay.
So there's just like some really cool, dumb achievements in there that just are really entertaining and really... Like, did you ever find any of the, for lack of a better term, pixel art photos?
Not that I can recall, no.
There's like photos that literally replicate like the overworld in Zelda.
Oh, okay. No.
And you can go into them.
No, never did that at all. No.
Yeah. There's some really cool, like... Maybe look at an achievement guide on Steam just to see some of the like really interesting, unique shit they do.
Mm.
Like there's a version of a Tamagotchi that you can actually play with.
I think I did that.
Like you use it.
I think I found that one. I think.
Yeah, because you need that as part of solving the puzzle, but you can actually press the buttons on it in the environment as well.
Oh, okay.
And there's an achievement tied to that. Like, it's super. Like I said, I'm too stupid for most puzzle games like this. The Witness I fell off of hard.
Mm.
But the brevity of this, like I'm up to the 4th hub.
Yeah, I think that's where I sort of got to and stopped. Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
I'm up to the 4th hub for now, and it's only like what's my where am I? There. 3.3 hours so far.
Yeah, it's not a long game, quote unquote. Like it's not.
No.
You're not going to be. Yeah, I think from when I played, I haven't gone back to it for a couple of months now, but the puzzles were just borderline, not completely off the show. Like you can't look at what the fuck am I doing here. Whereas I think that's what you had in The Witness. You'd either get the puzzle in the viewfinder and go, I just need to now execute what I need to do. And that might take a little bit of time. Whereas versus The Witness, we're going, I have no fucking idea what it wants me to do. I do this bit, and I go, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how it got to that. And you'll get the answer, go, what? You just sort of guess the answer, go, huh? And you sort of have no idea how you got it, sort of thing. Because I don't think I've come across that at all. I haven't come across that at all in the viewfinder. Just because if I understand the concept, I just got to now use that in this environment to get what I need out of it. And you go, that. Yeah. Sometimes when you sort of figure it out and go, I think this is what it's going to do, and it's working. Oh, that's really fucking cool. And you go, that's really. Yeah. It's just when you get one of those moments, it's really cool.
Even the challenge levels haven't been overly. Like, I would have thought I'd need to look up something for them, but no.
Yeah, the challengers I think are just trying to use because all of
There's just
the
expansions on some of the mechanics.
yeah, like most of the levels in each of the hubs are fairly straightforward. Probably overstating it a little bit, but they are one mechanic sort of thing.
Mm.
And you might have already, and also we won't necessarily be a new mechanic; it'll just be an expansion on an existing one. You got to go, what's the trick in this in particular environment? Oh,
Yeah.
it's the walls are transparent or they're whatever they are. Whereas the challenge ones will string a couple of those together and can be
Mm.
quite a bit longer in terms of the progression through all of the bits to it. But yeah, I don't think I've bothered doing all the optional ones at the moment. I think I've just gone through the story, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and then I'll go back because I think I have to assume you can go back and just replay those sections as much as you want to.
Yeah.
I assume so.
I went back into those levels plenty to do some of the more esoteric hidden achievements, just because I'm like, that's fucking cool. I
Yeah,
want to do it and I want to see it play out.
yeah.
Um,
That's what.
those
That's what.
the visual illusion,
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
the visual illusion series of maps at the end of the third chapter. Man, that shit's fucked up.
Yeah, I'm still gonna remember it. Sorry. Yeah.
You got the achievement for it. It just maybe you haven't seen it for a while, but oh, it's so good.
Yeah. As I
And
said, that.
there's a moment in early in the second chapter where the nature of what Viewfinder actually is, and it becomes very Portal-esque. It's like, whoa!
Yeah. Like that thing. Like I think that's a game I'd have to keep. I'd have to get back to. I always remember a lot of it because
Mm,
it's so weird and wonderful. But it's what it's trying to do is just so cool. And when you think of
yeah,
what they've managed to do with that game, like from just a purely visual perspective, and what you then
mm,
do when you take a photo and it puts it in the environment and protrudes into the environment, you go, how that's just fucking cool. And it looks so
yeah,
good.
it's magic. So yeah, I'm digging in Viewfinder. Bloodhound. I played a prologue for this a while ago, and I'm like, I feel like shooting dudes, so I did.
hmm
This thing is super short,
Okay.
and it just lashes achievements on you. You know, some of those real cheap games on Steam that you get that have like 1,000 achievements, but you get like one every second.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like that.
Yeah. Okay.
There's 103 achievements in this game. I got 88 of them in just over 2.5 hours finishing the game.
Okay. That's yeah.
It's a lot of kill 10 dudes with this weapon, kill 100 dudes with this weapon, and just like killing the different types of enemies and stuff like that. Um, I had an Unreal Crash, which was fun.
Okay.
Just like straight up, just like, oh, Unreal Crash, bloop, oh. It's serviceable and entertaining enough of like that style of old school shooter. But I would not buy. Its full price is $19, which isn't too bad. But you would have to be really into that style of sort of classic first person shooter if you really wanted to engage with it.
Doesn't sound
If
like
you've played basically all of those,
doesn't sound like you're really engaged with it
gone.
though. If you've got 88 achievements in less than a couple of hours, and it's like you're engaging with anything by the sounds of it.
Oh,
But
you're basically just
obviously,
running through the levels, shooting
yeah,
dudes, and yeah.
doesn't sound like
Um,
yeah,
it's fine for one of those.
yeah,
Um, this would not be the quote unquote one of these that I would play first, second, or third.
mm,
It would be if you've played through like Dusk, Bolt Gun, Horot, a lot of those sort of old school shooters that have come out in the last year or two, and you've played through all those and you want some more of that style of gameplay, then yep, fine, pick it up. But otherwise, I would skip it.
mm,
I wouldn't necessarily say that this is vital to play,
mm-hmm,
unlike something like maybe Horot or Dusk or Bolt Gun.
mm-hmm,
It's fine.
mm-hmm.
Um, oh fucking hell! So I saw a review for this on Rock Paper Shotgun ages ago where they awarded it its bestest bests, which was like their version of yo, this thing's fucking incredible. So I'm like, all right, I'll have a look. Grabbed it. Took me a while before I started looking at it. I'm like, and then the more I started reading of it, it's like, oh shit, this is like some real physics heavy, like space exploration, mining stuff like that, and that's exactly what it is. Like the percentage of people who have gotten through the tutorial for the achievement is like 65%. Um, it is literally just a very physics-heavy mining game in outer space, and like you pilot this ship. You either open the mouth of the ship to get rocks into your ship and then go back and sell them. Apparently, pirates show up at some point, but I haven't had that happen.
Hmm.
There are achievements tied to how far into the rings that you get. The last attempt, like I was sending you messages on Slack, basically going, "What the fucking fuck?" My last run in this, I'm just gonna hold forward. I'm just going to hold the boosters forward and just see how far I get and see what happens. Boosted really, really fast, straight into a rock, fucked up damn near all my systems. And then boosted even faster, and then eventually the autopilot took over and took me back to bloody... autopiloted me back to the quote-unquote base city. It's really, really cool that this thing exists, though. Like, it is absolutely not the sort of game... Maybe I'm too stupid for it. There's no real point outside of the experience of... Like, if it's very Minecraft, just less crafting and shit like that. You can follow the story in Minecraft, but most people don't do that. Most people just dig holes, build shit, and that's it. This is literally, like you hire crew members, you eventually upgrade your ship, buy bigger ships, stuff like that. But there isn't necessarily this big overarching story that you're trying to achieve. It's very much that experiential, let's just fly through space, do some mining, that sort of meditative element to it. It's super cool, but...
So did you buy did you buy it or did you play the demo that's on?
I should have played the demo because I bought it based on that review.
Okay.
But it also was, to me, it's like...
It's only $15.
It got that really...
Yeah,
it got that really positive review. And I'm like, this is the sort of experience that there's not a lot of really in games outside of really crazy, in-depth, like, hardcore things like that. So for me, it's that sort of thing where, okay, maybe I'm not going to play a massive amount of it, but I at least, A, want to see it, and B, to an extent, reward the developers for doing something this nuts.
Yep.
So I'm like, fuck it.
So the actual full game name is actually got these two symbols at the bottom. So you can see it's like a triangle and a V.
Delta V.
Delta V, but there's no way to actually just sort of put that into the into the name of this. So
I tried doing that. I literally tried doing it into... I just looked for Rings of Saturn in our tool, and it doesn't come up with the Delta or the V, which is really funny.
It doesn't come up with it, so I haven't figured out how to do that. So
I couldn't figure out how to do it. I just typed it into Google and copied and pasted it. It's really cool, but it's not going to be the sort of thing a large swath of people are going to be A, into, or B, arguably, even able to fucking... I showed you some screenshots of some of the systems and some of the shit that's on the screen. It's like, what the fuck?
And I looked at because we were discussing what we're going to do for video-wise for this weekend, and one of them we thought, well, we can look at this one, and I looked at like a trailer of this thing and said, that's just got shitloads of stuff going on. I don't think that's worth... That looked like the game you've got to play for a bit first before you can do a video of it, rather than us just diving in, completely blind and go, how the hell what do we do in this thing? So that's what we may do that, we may not. But yeah, we sort of...
I can't see myself playing too much of it, but I'm going to keep it installed for now. Just, I don't know, maybe just to fuck around. But it was really fun, like, just jetting myself straight into this massive rock, fucking up all my systems, and then spinning uncontrollably for a while. But, yeah. You already showed the last game. Lunas Dice. I don't remember how I found this. Might have been a review I saw online, or it popped up somewhere. It's non-sale price is $7.50 on Steam.
That's cheap. Yep.
It's just a neat sort of 3D platformer that really tries to replicate the vibe of PlayStation 1 3D platformers. There's a low-res graphical mode that like sort of tries to draw it even closer to those vibes.
Okay.
I ended up turning the low poly mode off, but you can. There's a 20 frames per second mode as well.
Okay.
which I'm like, oh, this hurts my eyes. The actual story is like real bizarre, but sort of also kind of on the periphery of it. It's set in 2453, and apparently the game is some sort of simulation.
Okay.
But that's all that they do with it.
Okay.
I have no fucking idea how else it comes up, like how the narrative actually comes up. Makes no fucking sense. I'm like, okay, whatever. There's a level where they were doing there's a rhythm thing going across the screen where they just have platforms disappear and reappear.
Mm-hmm.
And like sometimes you go to jump on them, then they vanish on you and you fall and die. It's like,
Yep.
really short. I finished it in like 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing it opens up a couple of new characters that change the way you play. I played for about 45 minutes after I finished it, as this little chick, almost this little bird, where like one hit kills you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little bit faster. It sort of has a speed run emphasis to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But it's just a neat sort of 3D platform, like just cheap 3D platform. And like you could play through it with the main character, I believe their name is Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And just totally get that, like, yeah, the vibes, PlayStation vibes, yo. So yeah, I got a couple of 3D platformers that I've bought this year, like that Qua, and what the fuck is it called? Qua and the Five Pirates of Mara, and a cheap 3D Metroidvania called Pseudo Regalia.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this somehow, and I'm like, oh, let's play this. Why not? So yeah, it's cool.
It's interesting.
And I watched Into the Spider-Verse again.
So just interesting enough, this game was developed by... No, it was published by Deck 13, who was the people that published
High-Rise City.
The High-Rise Cities, but also developed or released Atlas Falling earlier this year.
Oh, yep.
And did both the Surge games, so they've developed those games as well. So they've developed quite a few interesting games. So yeah,
there's a very broad scope to what they do
for what they've done. But yeah,
yeah, my copy of Across the Spider-Verse rocked up, so I'm like, I was gonna watch it, but it's been a while since I've watched Into the Spider-Verse. Let's watch that again.
Yep.
And goddamn, that movie's incredible. Moving on. Graham.
Yes.
Warp speed us to the beginning of the end so we can talk about this Unity shit. I think that's really the only way to describe it, isn't it?
Pretty much.
I think I might have timed the delay on the video input with the actual ending of the music on that one. Maybe. We'll have to see in the finished product. Fucking Unity, man. Like, you want to talk about colossally fucking over not only the people who have supported you or used your engine and made it so popular, but doing so and messaging so in the most fucked up, stupid, shitty fashion.
Yeah.
And making it retroactive.
Yes. So let's go back a bit before you start launching into them. So this is all in the last probably week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. This is all Unity. One of the two big game engines out there. They're probably bigger in terms of the actual games using them than probably any other one, but they're out there. They are primarily used by the indie development teams or smaller teams like that, versus like Unreal, which is obviously its main competitor, I guess. They released back about a fortnight ago a new pricing structure. So they initially came out and basically, we need to make more money. Fair enough, they do. Their main source of revenue is not the Unity itself. It's it's actually their ad stuff, all that sort of stuff they do through that makes their most of their money. But they're using that money to help develop and maintain and update Unity, the actual engine itself. And but I think when I looked at the last sort of financial stuff, yeah, they were probably not borderline, but they're on the way to um, the money they're making on the other side isn't enough to really maintain the engine. Kind of like they're kind of sort of bordering on that sort of stuff. So understandably, they have to try and make more money, which is absolutely fine. That's what they should be trying to do. But the way in which you do that is not the way they tried to do it. I think it's the upshot of all that.
God damn it.
So what they did was they released a update to their fee structure. So apparently, what you up until currently, because this is going to kick in on the 1st of January next year, was you paid on a per seat basis for your developers. So they'll say you've got 5 developers in your team. You can purchase you can use a free version of their tools, but you're going to miss out on support and that sort of stuff. Or you can pay on essentially per workstation or PC basis to using some of their higher level tiers of their tools. So you might be paying, say, $1,000 a year per PC, and that's...
Fuck, is that all?
It wasn't a lot of money. No, it wasn't a real lot of money. Which gets them that the point is that you're not spending a lot of money on the engine. This is why I don't think they're making enough money to support the engine ultimately. So what they introduced was a Unity Runtime fee, which basically tried to use bloody magic and mirrors that they could never explain to anybody how this is actually going to technically work. Was that they were going to count and charge per installation of the Unity runtime, which is essentially the thing you need to run in the Unity game, regardless of
the executable, or essentially the executable.
Essentially the executable. Regardless of how you run that game, it runs this thing. And they're going to charge 20 cents per one of the times these things got installed, not just installed. Once you met some other thresholds, so you had to, if you're on a particular level of that tier stuff I was talking about, you would either be $20,000 revenue and lifetime installs of 200,000. This 20 cents would then kick in beyond that. If you're on the Unity Pro Enterprise, it was $1 million revenue, $1 million lifetime, 1 million installs lifetime. To then have the same thing kick in.
Is that either or is that and?
I think it was an and. Yes, an and. It was both.
Well, I mean, if you get 1 million sales, you'd be making $1 million unless you're charging $1.
So the revenue threshold was over 12 months, but the installation was over lifetime, which makes very little sense. But anyway. So you've already made the money 6 years ago when you sold it. But the other thing this also kicked in was it was retroactive. So it went back to a game that you might have had released 3 years ago that's still making you money because it's still being sold on a regular basis.
Based on sales and
based
things
on
like
sales,
that.
whatever. If you then kicked over that revenue threshold, and you had 1 million installations, they're going to charge you 20 cents per million installations.
Per dollar over the mid, yeah.
Over that $1 million. So over that, yeah, depending on what threshold you met. And then you basically I think it then scaled from there after that. Once you sort of met those thresholds, you then you're scaled. So you had more. So it's 20 cents per if you're Unity Personal Unity Plus, which I think they got rid of one of those, and did that was other part of the other thing too. They got rid of one of those levels. And if you're Unity Pro, you're then charging less per installation, but it scales. But I won't go into detail of that. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but this had a massive reaction to it across the board, universally. What the fuck are you doing? Was essentially their reaction of it. They were actually saying, like, and sort of mentioned at the beginning, that their communication, like, wasn't necessarily bad. It was just that what they'd done was stupid. But what they couldn't necessarily explain to people is how the fuck this is actually going to work.
Yeah.
Because one of the things you cannot do right now is count on installs unless it's got some sort of phone home mechanism, phone back to base and say I'm being installed, count me for this game.
I mean, any download through Steam would like trigger that sort of count, wouldn't it?
No, this is installations, not downloads. Installations. So if you install it on a machine and then uninstall it and reinstall it, that's 2 installations. That's 2 lots of 20 cents. So one download.
But like,
it was installation.
Most gaming platforms like Steam and stuff like that, though, when you uninstall it to reinstall it, you have to download it again.
Yeah, but downloading and installing is not the same thing. Like you can down.
Oh, it's not the same thing. No, definitely not. No, absolutely, it's not the same thing. But the way digital marketplaces work, my understanding.
That's not. No, it's not. Not with this particular thing, anyway. Okay. Not with installations. But also, what it meant was the new term that came into the gaming industry was install bombing. Was a new term created based on this thing. Basically meant that someone who didn't like, for example, reason why you have review bombing now, they could buy the game once for $10 or $20, whatever it was, and then install it 100 times or 1,000 times.
A script to just constantly uninstall, reinstall.
Yep, because it was based on the install. The other thing that Unity really couldn't explain, even though they said kind of was a trust me bro kind of a thing, was they couldn't tell the difference between whether you bought the game on Steam, whether you pirated it, bought it through a Humble Bundle. They couldn't tell any of that stuff. So, because it's just an installation. They couldn't tell you. So if you bought it through a Humble Bundle and got 1,000 games for, $100, whatever you paid, you're potentially saying like you're paying 20 cents for that game or 30, 40, $3 or $4 for that game. And then again, you'll install it a massive amount of time, but you've paid bugger all. So the amount of money, like there were multiple developers who basically came out and said, we now owe you more money than this game made for us. We're going to lose money because of this thing. And it was, just utterly ridiculous what they tried to do. Like even the fact was that they were claiming just through we can do this. We've got this tool that they hadn't actually developed yet.
What the fuck is the tool?
They don't even have it. That's the point. Because if someone had this tool that exactly existed that could identify this game was pirated, that company would be a fucking $1 billion company or $1 trillion company by now. Because that technology does not exist. They claim they kind of had it. But then they turned around and said, "Oh, if you're on a," people then said, "What shit? What about Game Pass? A game that goes."
Oh yeah, that's right.
So a game onto Game Pass, that developer will have an agreement with Microsoft to say, Microsoft to give us $500,000 to put that game on Game Pass. Now it's available 23 million subscribers. If they all install it, who's paying that 20 cents? That eventually turned into Microsoft to pay it.
Yeah,
Microsoft are going.
How very Trump with the wall.
Exactly.
Mexico's going to protect this shit.
Basically,
Mexico's like, the fuck we are.
Fuck we are. So
did Microsoft at any point come out and go, the fuck we are?
I don't think they had to. that was never going to fly.
Because these agreements and these licenses and all this sort of stuff would have been contractually already sorted.
Well, that's what I was. That's
surely contractual law that sort of goes, you can't fucking do this.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like the thing that they were, like John Riccitiello, who's the CEO of
Unity, I forgot he was running shit over there.
He said, like his words are coming back to bite him basically. Basically said the company and him said if you agree to the terms at the point you download a particular version of Unity, those terms of service should stick with you in perpetuity basically.
Yeah.
And one of those was the terms of service didn't have this shit in it. And they basically.
Would there be sorry, go on.
That basically they then had that those terms of service stuck with that version of Unity specifically. If you upgraded your versions, your terms of service changed with it, which is fair enough. So they basically had wording and stuff in there that these terms of service won't change because of this agreement they had. But what they then did was they then removed that wording from the terms of service and basically screwed everybody over. because eventually they say, oh no, they're not there anymore. Well, they were.
That sounds fucking illegal. To quote
So
Dana White, as much of a piece of shit as that guy is too, that's fucking illegal, or it sounds like it should be.
yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like most of, and it's even started a discussion now from the European. I get their name correct.
European Trade Union or whatever.
No, it was the European EGDF, I think it was. European Game Developer Federation.
Oh, let's go.
They're like the ESA in America, but they're across multiple countries, and they're a European sort of body. They've basically
They
asked
probably actually do shit.
they are because they basically asked the European Union, can you please look into this kind of stuff and make doing unilateral changes like this completely illegal under contract law and stuff like that. So that's probably going to start.
Is there a clause? Would there be could there be? Obviously, there could be. Is there a clause though? And this, I have no fucking idea on any of this shit. And I don't know how much you know. I know you know way more about software development and all that sort of stuff than I do. Because to me, like I said, that idea of modern digital distribution is download equals install. In order to install, you'd need to download again. But that's neither here nor there. That's just me not knowing. If they have a clause in there that say we can change these policies at any time, but that's not publicized at the time, is that a loop? That's a loophole they can use to get around it. So is that a conditional sort of provision that was in those contracts?
Most of the time, when I read sort of and looked at some videos of actual lawyers looking through what they'd done, they were probably legally safe. Like they weren't necessarily breaking the contract because they're allowed to under most of the terms to say we can change these terms at any time kind of thing, and you probably haven't got a choice. That's a lot of you terms have that in it. But from a more ethical point of view, if you've come out literally said out in public that if you take on version, they named their version of the Unity in a particular way, but let's say you got the 2021 version of Unity, the terms of service at that time, they stuck with you until if you ever upgrade the engine, the terms go with it. And one of those things would be that this is not the way the pricing is going to work. And they had like a terms of service Git repository on Git repository to actually keep a history of the terms of service to be transparent, quote unquote. That all of a sudden stopped working.
Of course it fucking did.
And also that's when they started changing the wording of it to remove this language that basically said we won't do this to you kind of thing. And they did that, very subtly, not actually announcing it, which is part of the ethical part of ethical part of this whole process. So there's a lot of bullshit happening when they started this. And
this does nothing to fix like the one of the biggest accusations or issues with Unity as a whole is that concept of like asset flipping or like the Unity asset store just buying it and putting out cheap ass fucking just bullshit.
Never was designed to do that. Why would it? It was designed to make them more money.
Do you think there's any way for them to do anything about that asset flipping bullshit, or is that more on the individual licensees to either not do it or recognize trademark infringement? Because you get all those like Grand Theft Auto copies on like iOS and shit like that are literally just Unity asset flips.
That's nothing to do with Unity. That's the storefronts allowing that stuff to happen. That's not a Unity specific thing. But I don't think that's necessarily a Unity specific issue. That's a storefront allowing.
The one thing I think we also need to mention about old mate John Riccatello, in case people don't know this, he was running EA. Was it late 2000s? When EA was staring down the barrel of some really fucking dodgy shit and some real shitty business, like the $10 fee for used games or $10 some of that shit.
Yeah, like he
was running EA during like Mirror's Edge and the original Dead Space, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he was running it in the early to mid 2000, I think 2000 and
somewhere around then, and he made some real fucking stupid decisions that the EA shareholders like, get the fuck out.
Yeah, like he's not.
And he got the fuck out.
he's got his reputation precedes him. Put it that way.
Oh yeah,
And it's not necessarily a good one. And even now
him or
since
Don Matrick.
yeah, exactly. Like even um even since his time at Unity, he's made some pretty bad statements.
How long's he been at Unity for? I completely did not realize he was running Unity until this shit came out.
I think he's been there for quite a few years now.
Because for this, this is the biggest scandal or controversy that Unity's been involved with. Like, there's been like murmurs of like Unity doesn't perform well on certain consoles in certain situations, but like they have not faced anything on this scale.
No.
That is this fucked up.
So he was EA from 1997 to 2004. Then he
Oh fuck, that's way earlier than I thought.
he came back though. He disappeared to something else.
That'll explain
Then
that.
came back at 2007 to 2014, and he's been at Unity since 2014. So he's been
Fucking hell.
he's been there quite a while.
He's bided his time to do something stupid.
Yep. Yeah, like he's made things in the past, like if Unity's developers don't consider monetization, they are quote unquote fucking idiots. He's just made some really.
It sounds like John Riccatello.
Yep, he's just made some really stupid decisions. There's also something very interesting about Unity versus Unreal, and when I was watching an earlier podcast about this, listening, there's some rules around the usage of the Unity logo. If you're on one of the smaller, I think the way that it worked, I could be completely wrong on this sort of the details of this, but my understanding was that if you were on the free tiers of the free tiers of the Unity platform, whatever, you had to put the Made in Unity logo in your splash screen. You had to do it.
Makes sense.
If you're on if you're on the other ones, you didn't have to do that. So if you're paying the $1,000 a year or $1,000 a month, whatever it is, you didn't have to do that. As a result of that, Unity is out there everywhere, like because everyone knows it's being used.
I think David Diver's even in Unity.
Probably is. I mean, it seems to be if you're making my sort of understanding of the general things, if you're making essentially 2D game, you're probably going to do it in Unity.
Dave the Diver is in Unity.
Yep.
Was Paul using Unity for Readapt, or was he developing his own engine?
He would have to have used Unity, I suspect. I suspect he was using.
We probably should have asked him before this. I literally didn't even think of that question until just now. Let's see, he's on Steam.
But yeah, So basically, what the upshot of all this was, for example, in this story we're looking at here, we've got the developer of Rust, Unity game, posted that the pricing plan would have cost them an extra $410,000 had it existed since the game's release, about $40K a year. So it would have cost that's a lot of money for these developers. Last month it would have cost us $2,500 because they might have only had one PC license for Unity. That's how much it would have cost them. So to go from that to $40,000 a year lost, which is just and the biggest reaction to this was basically, I'm halfway through or 2 years into a development of this game. I can't change engines. That's a massive overhead to change engines. And you've now basically screwed it. So I now need to make a shitload more, or put monetization in it so I can make more money to cover the cost of this extra bullshit you're throwing on us.
Or the European trade or whoever it is looks into this and goes, "Fuck you! You can't pull this shit."
Well, that might save them at some point, but you can't rely on that ever happening or happening in a recent time frame that is going to make a difference to you. So,
I like the Terraria developers' way of dealing with this. Going, all right, I'm donating $200,000 to. It's too much smaller. I'd never heard of the engines that he was donating to.
Yeah, so the two big things that came out of part of this was that an engine called Godot sort of came to.
That's one I've heard of in the aftermath of this.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either. Sort of came out to this. Well, we're here. We won't screw you over. Basically, kind of thing.
Hit us up.
Um, so and they basically so they I think a lot of people said, no, we're done with Unity. We're going to jump. We haven't actually got to the fact they've turned a lot of this back, but we'll get to that. We're still sort of getting to the reaction
initial
to
fuck.
the reaction to it.
The initial
reaction to
fuck.
it. And the biggest thing that most of the developers did was, the other part of it too, which I didn't get as much coverage as I think it should have got, is that at some point during this process, there's reporting, or not reporting, but sort of developers basically saying that Unity reached out to them and said that if you start using as in Unity's ad monetization, I don't know what the terminology is, tool called something, we would basically waive these fees. So they were basically trying to use this, this thing they created as a, that is illegal because that's bundling and that's using monopoly stuff to get rid of, because they've had a competitor in the same space and that sort of stuff, and they were basically saying if you use our tools, we'll drop these fees. You've got to use our tools versus the other tools, which are by all accounts significantly better than their tools. So,
speaking of illegal, I think I read somewhere that not necessarily Riccatello, but someone high up in Unity dumped a bunch of shares before they announced this.
Well, they do that regularly, so that wasn't a thing.
Because I saw accusations of insider trading and shit on that. I'm like, hang on, that's not necessarily insider trading, is it?
There was. Well, there would be if the idea, because Unity is a publicly traded company. So if you sold,
if they knew that this was going to go down like a lead balloon and he sold off,
then that's insider trading about. But they do that regularly, so that wasn't annoying shit. That story. So apparently those. Why I'm not too sure, but they were regularly selling off shares. That wasn't
I don't know, maybe to keep diversification or money laundering or some shit.
Who knows what
the Cult of the Lamb developers are like, yo, if this comes in July 1st, that fucker's getting deleted.
We're just getting exactly. So there's a lot of.
So I just looked up on special reserve for the physical Cult of the Lamb releases. Everything is sold out. What a bummer. Anyway.
Yeah, so basically the reaction was it was as negative as you would expect it to be based on what they were trying to do. But the funny thing...
Is this the most negative reception to something in games in like the last 5 years?
I don't know. It's certainly up there.
What's come close? Cyberpunk's reception, maybe.
Yeah, it's not the same thing though, is it? Like it's not the same.
It's not the same thing.
The
stuff for the Xbox One, or the shit that Matrick announced?
Not really.
That's not 5 years, obviously.
No.
I can't think of anything that's gone down and been received this fucking piss poorly. And has created such a shit show.
Other than just game releases. Like game releases coming out completely fucked. Like I think...
Fucked and things like that.
And things not running well. I think it's probably the only thing that sort of comes close to this. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Riccatello setting fucking standards again. What a dipshit.
Yeah, I'm not too sure anything ever comes close to this. Yeah, unless we're missing something really obvious, but nothing really comes to mind.
Not to me. The last thing I remember was the Xbox stuff with always online, no use games, all that shit.
Which, funny enough,
That's
is kind of where we are now anyway. So it's kind of funny how that's It's kind of funny how that's gone. But
Matrick was ahead of the game after all. That motherfucker.
So basically, so what a lot of the developers did to react to this was to turn off all the ad stuff, so they weren't making Unity any money at all, which is a fantastic way to do it. So a lot of the developers did that. There's a sort of they gave themselves a name, and there was like 40 to 50 developers did this thing to them. So it was it was a very good way to react to it. So they've essentially, for the most part, they've backtracked from this fairly significantly. They've dropped the runtime thing. For the most part, it's still there at some point.
I think they massively raised the ceiling on when that kicks in.
They've made it so that basically it's now, I think it's basically now $1 million Okay, I'm now looking at an announcement from Mark Whitten, who is what exactly
Who's
does
that?
he works for Unity. Just trying to find out what his title is, but I don't know. It doesn't say his title is. Anyway, so I'm lead and I lead Unity Create. What the fuck that means? Which includes the Unity engine
I
and the
think
editor
that's a
teams.
division
Must be
based on the engine.
must be an engine. Yeah, okay. Basically says that I'm sorry. Okay, so the
Despite
Unity.
the fact I didn't fucking decide on this.
Yeah.
Fucking Riccatello, man.
Okay, so we're going to increasing. What is it saying here? So we're going to. Our Unity personal plan will remain free, and there will be no runtime fee for games built on Unity. We'll be
At all, or just that tier?
just that tier, I think. We will be increasing the cap from 100,000 to 200,000, and we'll remove the requirement to use the Made with Unity splash screen. That's interesting. Not too sure what that really does, but yeah. No game with less than 1 million in trailing 12-month revenue will be subject to the fee. For those creators on Unity.
What's trailing revenue refer to?
Previous 12 months. That's all that would mean.
Oh, okay. I thought that was some special. Whatever.
Those on Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise, we're also making changes based on your feedback. The runtime fee policy will only apply beginning with the next LTS. The LTS is their term for their terms of service. I don't know what the L stands for.
Long-term service?
Maybe, I'm not so sure. The LTS stands for something.
Mm.
So that's basically saying they won't begin until the next version of Unity.
Licensing terms of service.
Yeah, something like that. And that's shipping in 2024. So basically they've now gone back to that is your version of terms of service at the time you got Unity and your time your version out. They're going to stick with you. They've gone back to that.
So they've removed the retroactive
nature of it. Yeah, they removed that.
Yeah.
They've increased some thresholds. They've kept some version free, which was previously going to be upgraded to a paid version of some sort.
Okay.
And they've also gone and reinstated their idea about having the terms of service that are tied to a particular version of Unity, and that being applied, forever forward. So they've gone back to that, it would seem.
So they've basically backtracked everything, hoping that people go, "Hey, they're back in the good graces," and forget the last 2 weeks.
Basically, it says your games that are currently
Fucking
shipped
idiots.
and then the projects you're currently working on will not be included unless you choose to upgrade them to this new version of Unity. So that's the sort of the big thing from it. We'll make
When
sure
was this?
When was this? When was this announced?
When was this announcement?
Like yesterday.
Okay.
This is the new thing going forward. This is what they've gone and changed it to. We will make sure you can stay on the terms applicable for the version of Unity that you are using as long as you keep using that version. Goes back to what they said they were going to do ages ago. In fact, I think that's something that John Riccatello might have even said at some point. These terms, I think he might have even said, I think if you download our engine, those terms should stick with the engine kind of thing, like that sort of a concept. So, anyway. For games that are subject to the runtime fee, we're giving you a choice of either a 2.5% revenue share. Bear in mind, Unreal is 5%, so they're less than Unity, less than Unreal.
I was going to say, that sounds at least reasonable on the surface to me.
Or the calculated amount, or the calculated amount based on the number of new people engaging with your game each month. Both of these numbers are self-reported from the data you already have available. You'll always be billed for the lesser amount.
Oh, okay. I thought they were going to go the higher amount, number one. No. And number two, I was going to ask again, where do they get the metrics for that second option?
Well, basically, it's number of people engaging with. That's purchasers. I'd imagine.
Purchases, concurrent players. You can.
Yeah. You've got metrics to count that. So, and they've got ways to to count that themselves. So basically, they've basically rolled back most of it. And from what I was the podcast I was referring to actually had Rami on it. Rami Ismail from what?
Flambeer. Technically, Flambeer is not a thing anymore.
Not a thing with him, but he made what was it called? Fabulous Fishing? No.
Nuclear Throne and Ridiculous Fishing and those are the two big ones.
Yeah, big two ones. And he was one of the people that was was big against what they'd done for sure.
You'd fucking hope so.
Yeah.
I'm just stunned that fucking Riccatello made this like Unity Create dude come out and say all this shit and apologise and all that, rather than him stepping up, going, "All right, I'm the head of the chain. This stuff didn't get received well. It was a fucking shit idea. Our bad. Here's what we're fixing."
The thing that sort of staggers me the most is how on earth did this get through the layers of decision making?
And no one decided, hey, people are going to hate this.
People are going to hate this. I haven't got one thing too. The story is that a lot of people inside the company did think this was going to be a really bad idea and told management so. But they still went.
Management's like, yo, we got to get back.
And a lot of people even said that at some point they thought that they'd been editing. This has been apparently on the cards for 12 months or so. These changes, not the specific these changes, but changes to the pricing model. And most people inside the company had thought that this concept of this runtime fees thing had been dropped and completely was off the table. Till all of a sudden it just came back and was announced.
Oh, fucking hell.
So the other part of this we sort of didn't cover briefly was that there was one of these all hands meetings that companies do when they're in crisis like this, and it got cancelled because of a bomb threat, or it was a bomb threat. It was
That's right. I heard about that.
But it was actually a threat to this meeting of some sort, which normally you expect that's a bad actor on the community side. Apparently, it was an employee that did it. The reporting was an employee was the one that did the threat into the thing. So I
can't imagine that employee's still fucking there.
Yeah, well, assuming he's able to find who it was, I guess. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be around for much longer. But I think, I mean, the thing that's been actually the most, obviously the idea about what they tried to do was completely batshit, was never going to work. And if you go through, I would highly recommend if people want to listen to a good explanation of this.
I was going to say, what was the podcast you actually listened to that had this?
I was going to talk about. So this is the Play, Watch, Listen podcast. That's hosted by Lana Pierce, an Australian journalist who now works for Sony Santa Monica.
Lana's on
Twitch, yep. So she
and Twitter and everything else.
Yeah, so she hosted a podcast that normally has in it Mark Biffle, Austin Wintory, and Troy Baker.
Yep.
I think because of all of the writer strike, I think Troy's been out of the equation for a little bit. I think, not too sure. Anyway, this particular one had Austin Wintory, Mike Bithell, and Rummy in it. So
yeah, two people who know something about development in indie spaces.
So you've got two incredibly good developers in Rummy and Mike Bithell. Mike Bithell, Thomas is Alone, Tron...
The John Wick game.
The game that had Greg Miller was in it. What was that game? Solitaire Conspiracy, is that right?
Solitaire Conspiracy. Yeah. I think they also did the Tron visual novel that came out recently.
Yeah, so they've done a bloody good developer. Hell of a nice guy. So they went through basically up and this came out a couple of days before they did the turnaround, so that was pre all that stuff. But they went through basically almost like a timeline from beginning to end. Yeah. Because you've got two developers who both use Unity, and Rummy and what his role now is, not that he's got his role is to help. He's no longer developing games on a routine basis. So
he's doing more consulting stuff.
Yeah, consulting stuff, and helps other developers get their game out the door, kind of stuff. So basically, those two were, as you imagine, very animated in their discussion about this whole thing. But I think it's
were they able to keep the language to a half decent?
Oh yeah,
discourse, they were just dropping bombs.
They were pretty good for the most part. I mean, you could definitely tell looking at because I watch it on YouTube, so they've got the video on screen of what they should look like. You could definitely tell that both Rami and Mike were incredibly angry at what they'd done. They were you could just see the stuff they was. But they went through almost like a timeline of what it was prior to this, what happened when they announced it, what it meant for developers, blah blah blah, and that sort of thing. So it probably is.
Maybe we put the link to that episode in the description.
I think we will, because it's probably the best. Where most of the stuff I've talked about, it comes from me watching that video, and I normally don't watch a lot of it. I knew when this thing hit, I really hope that they do a good thing on this one. I did most of the podcast.
I was going to say, do you reckon they booked Rami before all this shit
I
happened?
think no,
or it's like, yo, Rami,
no,
fuck you doing?
they would have booked it because of this thing. No doubt about it. I think they pretty much said as much. So, so yeah, like it's incredibly, a very good podcast to listen to that particular episode. And good podcast to listen to generally because it's a great podcast generally. But, so I would recommend people watch that video, listen to that podcast because they'll get way more in depth from two actual real-time developers versus us
who are
in the middle, and it would have been directly impacted by what this thing was.
What a fucking clusterfuck!
But the thing that's now most interesting is what's the long-term impact on Unity for this? Like, yes, they've rolled it back to what is and what I was going to get to was that Rami basically said at some point in a tweet after they'd announced any changes, I think these can work, was basically his response. So it's not perfect what they've done because he does actually say in here, I just read another post.
There's still some fucked up shit in there.
There's still some stuff in it. Like he's basically saying, this actually predates the changes, so that's old news. The fucking bloody thing now they've got with X being so stupid, you got to log in and all kind of shit. I've got rid of my Twitter account months ago. I can't.
Yeah, me too. I fucked Twitter off my phone.
Yeah, I can't even see the history of it. Anyway, he basically said at some point, I don't know the exact tweet or whatever he said, but after the announcement came out, he basically said, "Yeah, this is going to work. I think this is workable." Kind of was his outcome. But the thing that now,
who the fuck trusts them?
That's the biggest thing. Like that's the biggest thing. Like who would now trust them not to try and pull this same stunt 2 years down the track when everyone's quote unquote forgotten? I think they have so thoroughly shot themselves in the foot, really effectively, really, really well. I'm not too sure that they're going to fully recover from this.
I get the vibe, and this obviously I'm comparing two completely different industries, two completely different people. But like Riccatello and the things he did at EA, I get a real Vince McMahon vibe off this motherfucker. Not the real toxic sexual assault, harassment allegations and all that stuff. Just the concept of, we're going to do this, you're going to fucking cop it, and you're going to shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah, that's definitely sort of part of it at some level for sure.
The number of times that releases have happened for budgetary reasons, and then the day before they announce releases, they're like, "Hey, we signed a new $1.2 billion TV deal with USA. Why the fuck are these budget cuts? Why the fuck are these cuts in talent happening for budgetary reasons? Fuck off."
Yeah.
But anyway, there's my vent on the wrestling situation right now. I
think
surely Riccatello can't be that fucking stupid.
Well, I don't know if I'd necessarily pin it all down to him. I mean, as I said, this has got to go through layers of people.
He's not the only one.
Lawyers have got to come in and say whatever. So it's not. I don't pin this completely on Riccatello. He's obviously at the top of the tree on this one. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing now, going forward is, are we going to see a reduction in games made with Unity? And I suspect we will, because I just think people are going to go, shit, I can't trust them anymore. Even though the engine itself is pretty damn good. Like one of the things that
it's in a real place, it seems, right now.
Yeah, like the thing that Mike and both Rami were saying was that it's probably, I think they said like 90,000, 100,000 games available on Steam. 85,000 of them are made with Unity kind of thing. So the number of games made with Unity are staggering or high versus pretty much any other engine, because of the structure and how it is to get into it. The problem, the thing now is that, back to what I sort of made to that trust thing, what happens now with all the skills? Like people have built in 3 or 4 or 5, a decade worth years of skills in Unity. Are they really going to now go, oh shit, I need to change to Godot or go to Unreal or whatever? That's another 5 years of re-engineering, retooling, relearning on a new engine. So
I wonder how comparable those other two. I can't remember the name of the other engine that the Terraria dude donated to, but I wonder how comparable those two engines are to Unity and the tools within Unity and stuff like that. Unreal's its own just complete kettle of fish because it's so much more
expensive.
It's so much more powerful.
Well, it's not necessarily that it's more expensive. I think it's actually not that more expensive versus, well, now Unity with this new free structure in place. It's used to make different games. Like, I want to make a game of X. What's the best engine for that type of game? And also including things like, where's my skill sets? Do I have any engine knowledge? No, well then probably doesn't matter what engine I choose. I've got to learn either one of them from scratch. But I've got a mate of mine who might be able to help, and he's done Unity for 5 years. Well, fuck, I'm going to choose Unity, aren't I? Because why would I not, sort of thing.
Let's go back to every video game basically using remnants of the Quake 2 engine, like they did for Call of Duty.
The other engine might have been Phaser? I can't remember. Don't know. But Godot is the one that's Godot was the one that sort of came.
Gal Gadot.
Yeah. Was the one that sort of I saw a lot of. Yeah, but
where is this? Godot and Godot, Godot, and FNA.
Okay.
100 grand each from the developers of Terraria.
Yeah. And the thing about
FNA
that
is one I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, neither I'd not heard of that one either. I'm not even seeing. And also, the funny thing about that Terraria release was they didn't make the game in Unity.
What?
So they didn't make the game in Unity.
The Terraria one didn't know.
Yeah, they just said, "Oh, we support everyone's, what they're trying to do here. Here's 100,000 grand."
Huh. So games like Mercenary Kings and Hacknet were made in FNA. It's seemingly a variant on XNA. Reproduce XNA as it was made by Microsoft.
Oh, okay. XNA was there. It was their development tools years ago for their
And Godot doesn't really seem to specify. Oh, it shows Godot is sponsored by. But it doesn't seem to suggest what sort of games have come out on Godot.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how many come out on it. Yeah. But yeah, so that's basically the Unity debacle of the last, like 2 weeks, I guess. I've
just looked up Godot games just to see what games are running on that, and it doesn't seem to be a lot of Cassette Beasts. Halls of Torment came out this year as well in early access. There's a few. Brotato, Domekeeper, Cruelty Squad, X Zodiac, which is that early access Star Fox tribute. Rings of Saturn, Delta V. So there's a few games that have come out using Godot as well.
Yeah, I think it's
cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah. So yeah,
what a fucking shit show.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing about that way they even at one point they said, we haven't communicated this well. No, you have. Just everyone thinks it's shit. It's not the communication wasn't the problem.
You communicated it in the way exactly how you wanted to communicate it. It's just no one fucking liked it because it was a bad idea.
Because it was a pretty bad idea. And also, they kept on, they were backtracking stuff all the way, even before they fully backtracked. They said, we can detect the first initial install, not the subsequent ones. We can detect game bundle versus Game Pass. That sort of. They started just backtracking everything once they got our small.
I'd love to know how they were planning on doing that.
Yeah, as I said, when you listen to this demo, this podcast, basically, I think Mike had said at one point, if a game company could develop technology that did what they claim they could do,
they wouldn't need to make games.
They'd be making an absolute mint of that technology. So yeah. Right. So interesting to see where that how that goes in the end. But yeah, watch. Yeah, very very interesting.
Hopefully, no more bullshit around that.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be good. Yeah.
Let's try and do a quick run through October's games.
Yes, we should do that.
I don't know how quick we can be because there's a lot. First off, the 2nd of October, an adventure game called Bilkin's Folly, coming out on PC, Switch, and the PlayStation consoles. The reason I'm saying that is because its developer is Australian.
Cool.
So that's coming out on the 2nd, along with console versions of Trepang 2. What a great fucking game that is. The Lamplighters League is out on the 3rd of October. Fucking let's go.
Really looking forward to that one. That's
Definitely.
It's out on PC and Xbox stuff.
Yes, I probably should have said that. Hellboy Web of Weird. Coming out on pretty much everything. Has a decent look to it, and hopefully better than the last Hellboy movie, which I've heard was fucking shit. That's on the 4th. Excuse me. Assassin's Creed Mirage on the 5th. You already know if you want that or not.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Although it does appear to be
really interested to see what it does.
Appear to be more of a return to the previous versions of that style of that game. So,
not the big, massive, fucking 120 hour.
I'm not saying it won't be that, but
Ubisoft, everything Ubisoft has said so far has been like, "Yo, this is 20 or 30 hours."
Oh, okay, they actually come back and said that. Fair enough. Yep.
I believe I've read that somewhere. Don't ask me where, but I've read it somewhere.
Yep.
Wargroove 2. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because if people like Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, this is basically a somewhat tribute to that, sequel to the game that came out a few years back. That is also coming out on the 5th on the Switch and PC. On the 6th, Detective Pikachu returns, literally, and that's the name of the game, on the Switch. NHL 24 on the PlayStation and Xbox consoles. No, I don't know why EA doesn't do PC versions of NHL.
Nah, odd. It's one of those things where they have...
Although NBA 2K, the PC version of that's got the fucking worst reviews on Steam ever. You were saying?
Yeah, like even the betting games hadn't come to PC until relatively recent too, so maybe it's just a weird engine thing. I don't know. No idea.
Possibly. I mean, or it's just NHL and they just don't think enough people give a shit.
Don't know. Yeah.
Forza Motorsport, I was going to say 10. Don't know why. Because it's coming out on the 10th.
Yep.
On PC and the Series X. Not a big release, but I think more people should play this. Little Gator game is also coming out on the same date on the PlayStation and Xbox consoles. What a great fucking game that is. I'm skipping Total War Pharaoh because whatever. Lords of the Fallen on the 13th of October. I'm really looking forward to. I'm hoping that turns out really, really well. Souls-like, semi-reboot, semi-sequel to the Lords of the Fallen game that came out about 6 years ago. Sonic Superstars on the 17th. Damn near everything. Wizard with a Gun is the next Devolver game. Has a cool concept off the top of my head. Don't ask me to tell you what it is, though, because I can't remember. You're a wizard, you have a gun. That sounds all right. The 19th has a lot of games, but not much I'm seriously interested in.
Yeah, there's
Jackbox 10.
10th version, 10th one of those, yeah.
I'm shocked they've managed to get to 10 of those.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably fairly cheap to make, though, I should imagine.
Gargoyles Remastered is one that people are psyched about, but I never played the Gargoyles game or watched the cartoon. On the 20th, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 coming out on the PC and Super Mario Bros. Wonder coming out on the Switch.
PS5, not PC, for Spider-Man.
Did I say PC?
You said PC, yeah.
Oh, what a dum-dum head. The 24th has a few things coming out. City Skylines 2, Graham.
Yep, looking forward to that one, I am, yep.
Where?
I think that's on Game Pass on the console, I think. So I probably will get it there and buy it on PC would be my assumption. I think that's the case. Pretty sure it's on console.
That should be very pretty ray traced and stuff like that. Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is the survival game in the Lord of the Rings universe they're doing on PC and PlayStation 5, whatever. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. People like those PlayStation Metal Gear Solid games. Ghost Runner 2 coming out on the 26th. I got a demo. There was a demo for that came out after the State of Play. I haven't played it yet. I'm going to play it on this week's Friday night show. Alan Wake 2 on the 27th. Are you keen on that?
Nah. No.
Did you play much of the first one?
I never played the first one at all. Yeah, it's the horror part of it that doesn't appeal to me.
it's actually not that much horror-ish, but I get where you're coming from. EA Sports UFC 5, another one of them. Why not? Jusant, coming from Don't Not, it's the sort of climbing, for lack of a better term, simulator. PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. I believe that is a Game Pass game. Off the top of my head. And I chose not to mention Resident Evil coming out on phones because apparently people give a shit about that. That's what the fuck? Who the fuck is playing Resident Evil Village on their goddamn phone? Ugh. I mean, yeah, it's technically impressive, but fuck me, who cares? That's it.
Yeah.
That's October. Well, that's what I reckon from October, unless I've missed anything.
No, nothing's there, but let's just quickly go across to...
You're checking the Internet Games database?
Check them as well, because... yeah.
While you're doing that, I'm quickly just looking at my 2023 playlist for some must-listens. There's a couple, like Atoll put out a new album called Human Extract, which is fucking heavy. It's so good. And a band called Not, N-O-T-T, put out an album called Hiraeth, Hiraeth. I really enjoyed that as well. A couple more albums that I think could be good, but I haven't listened to them enough to actively say, yes, they are must-listens. So, yeah. Although I did listen to the new Polaris album, Anyway, anything on the IGDB that is of interest?
There probably is, but I have to... It's not easy enough to go further into October than about the 10th, so...
Just because of how many pages of releases
basically, yeah, I'm not... There's got the
Fucking
upcoming 14 days of games, but... It's a big list, but I can't seem to go any further forward than that, so... yeah.
Anyway.
I think we've covered the main ones.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And go back to what I was saying before, City Skylines 2 is on Xbox Game Pass, so, yeah. I'll probably...
Is it also PC Game Pass or just Xbox? Because there's times where they just do console, there's times where they do both, there's times where they just do PC and cloud.
This goes... It does appear to be on both, yes. Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass, it does appear to be.
There you go. Because Party Animals, that new game that came, Fall Guys, but with like cute little animals. Console Game Pass, but not PC Game Pass.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a shame there, but whatever.
Alright, we've been going for nearly 2 hours, which is bloody long for us.
I was going to say, how about we call it? Because realistically, new FIFA's out this week. Whatever.
So, yeah, let's call it.
Yep. I was like, all right, then call it then. Finish it up. But I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's my job this week.
Your job.
Yeah, my job this week. For Graham Banks.
There
we go. This has been the Should I Play This Game podcast, episode 287, for the 25th of September, 2023. Thank you for hanging out and listening to us bullshit on like we always do. Hopefully some video stuff coming this week.
Yes.
We'll see what we're going time-wise after we're done with this. I'll be back on my Friday night bullshit with Friday Night Funsies and recording some video content of some kind next weekend. Graham?
Yes, I think so. We should be able to do that.
Well, yeah, we probably should. Fucking, goddamn it, this health run. Tell you what. Give me the shits. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Go hang out on YouTube. Check us on YouTube if you want. And that'd be great. But for now, bye.
Bye. See ya.
Damn it! I was late again. Fuck!